Hello my friends, so back on the Swiss ball, one of my favourite Swiss ball exercises, side flexion. So really good for spinal health first and foremost, excellent for the internal external oblique patterns. So our lives typically are quite front to back, so even people who are doing a lot of core work spend a lot of time doing front to back exercises, crunches or extensions. And we kind of forget about this side flexion pattern. Doing it on a Swiss ball is a great way to do it. So we'll quickly demonstrate a stretch for obliques, lats, and then we'll get into the side flexion exercise. It's worth noting that if you're doing the side flexion exercise, if you feel anything in your lower back, then I would stop and just readjust your position. You shouldn't feel anything in your lower back. Tipping the body forward can help a little bit, or you might need to do some sort of concentrated work on lower abdominal activation, of drawing in on the lower abdominal muscles. That's for another time, another post. So first things first, again, always obviously check your surroundings, make sure the ball is clean and well inflated. Stretching first time. So kneel down next to the ball. Your body is going to cut the ball in half. Keep the ball in tight to you as you go onto it. So I'm keeping that ball in tight as I've gone onto it. Okay, it can be very tempting, and you see it a lot of the time. People will allow the ball to roll away from them as they go onto it. That's not going to work. So keep the ball tight, pop yourself onto the ball. Depending on the size of the ball, you might find your hand makes contact immediately. From here, I'm just going to push myself over the ball. So I'm just pushing through this top leg. That sees the, obviously the bottom knee come off the ground. The ball has got me. It's nice and stable. I can use the bottom hand a little bit for some stability. Allow the head to relax. I'm just going to let this leg kind of drop away a little bit. So I'm already feeling the stretch. Generally the stretch will be at the apex of the ball. So the very peak of the ball is where you'll get the stretch. So you can fine tune these things a little bit by creeping down or equally pushing yourself slightly further over. Key is just to remember, relax the head. The head is the top of the spine, and we want the spine to bend around the ball. So relax the head, reach the arm over. Now you can gently grab the top hand, whether that's in the fingertip or the wrist, and just gently pull down. Keep the head relaxed, breathe out, sink in. Good, nice stretch. Return out of the position in exactly the same way that you got into it. Turn around, do the other side, come back to it. So rather than staying in that stretch for an extended period of time, move into it, get a little stretch, come out, turn around, backwards and forwards. If you're not used to using a Swiss ball, it helps breed a bit of familiarity to using the ball. All right, so let's go straight into the side flexion exercise. So we're going to be in a very similar position to start with. So on the ball, push out through the top leg. Now I'm going to scissor the feet a little bit. Now, you can put your feet up against an object. You can go up against the wall or something to give you a sturdier base. Or you can do it away from that sturdy base. You'll see it's quite a different movement. I'll show you both. So, again, I'm going to let the head relax. The movement starts at the head. So I'm going to side bend the head, and then I'm going to side bend through the torso. Again, so the movement starts at the head. I'm going to side bend the head, side bend at the torso. Okay, so I'm slipping a little bit. So a little readjustment required. Get a little higher on the ball. Where's the pivot point? There we go. Okay. So side bend on the head, side bend through the torso, and I'm going to try and tuck my rib towards my hip. I don't want my hip to drop and move away. So there's a small range of motion all the way back down to this kind of stretched position. Whoop. Your feet are going to move. They're going to slip a little bit. It's not a big range of motion. As you can see, it's not a big range of motion, but it's a strong contraction. You'll get a bigger range of motion when you anchor the feet. So we'll move into a slightly anchored foot position, and you don't need much. So again, I'm going to do the same thing, keep the ball in tight, position myself on. So now this top leg is just very gently anchored. As you can see, I've put the yoga block up against the cable machine, and that's enough. And I can already feel the difference just in this kind of stretch position. So again, we begin at the head, so side bend, and again, I'm just trying to keep to a very tight movement. So the hip's not going to move much. My rib, my lowest rib's coming towards my hip. Couple of repetitions for you to see. So again, start at the head, side bend the torso, boom. All the way back down. This is the start finish. Relax. There. So this is peak contraction. This is solid through here, and it's hard. Nice exercise. Just do, if you've not done this before, do a couple of reps. Change sides, and just do a few repetitions on each side, because you'll find you'll position yourself slightly differently on each side. So you've got to work at breeding familiarity and symmetry. So common issues, A is position on the ball, and also then actually coming up too much. You don't really need to come up very far. So we'll show you coming up too far, how that looks. So what we don't want to do is come to a seated position. There's no need for this, because now, because of the way the hip has moved, I'm actually not really much shorter on this side of the body than this side. I mean, it is a little bit, but not much. And we want to emphasize side flexion. So we keep the hip rigid. This top leg is nice and straight. Side bend. So we're not sitting up. We're not moving the ball. We're not continuing round onto the hip. So you've got to be quite strict with yourself. Another issue you will sometimes experience is this leg goes a little bit loose. So you go into the movement, and as you start to side bend, this leg drops down. And now, critically, my pivot point has changed on the ball. So as I side bend, the ball actually wants to travel that way. So you'll feel the ball kind of sliding away from you as you do your repetitions. Yeah, so that ball is sliding away from me because this top leg has bent. So it's just something to be aware of, that you're being strict on your technique each and every time, then it tends not to go wrong. I literally need to reset because of how I've slipped. So reset, nice and stable. Other common issue, we side bend, but don't come to a full relax. All the way out, try and get that stretch. Let the rib cage open, let the armpit come up over the top. Side bend, all the way back out. Side bend. Nice and straightforward. Get practicing. It's a really, really good exercise. There's a little bit of fine tuning that you can work on, but just get used to being on the ball. Try the stretch first of all on both sides, and then try moving into this side flexion pattern. To begin with, you start with your arms across the chest. As you get better and more comfortable and confident, then you can move to a temple kind of position, hands at temples or earlobes. Then you can move to an arm and extension position. once you're happy with arms and extension, then you can actually start looking at loading, so holding weights on the torso and side bending with the weight. When you get into additional weight at the top, obviously you have to then really anchor the foot quite nicely. Rep range, once you're up and running with this, you're looking to get into, double figures. 8, 12 repetitions is a nice range for the abdominal muscles. Yeah, it's a great exercise. If you want to tighten the waist just a little bit, get on this. It's a good solid exercise to do. You wouldn't need to do this any more than once, twice a week as a pulling it into just a conditioning workout. Nice exercise. Did I forget something? Yes, I did. Tempos. Didn't really talk about tempo. Tempo the movement, pretty much as I showed it. So you want to come up with good speed to the contraction and then kind of slowly back out, make the most of the stretch position, come up with good speed, maybe a little hold in the top position, and then back down. I like this exercise. It's very, very effective once you get it right. So keeping the hips really fixed and rigid, keeping that top leg nice and straight and strong. Try it, in both positions. A lot of people immediately want to go to a foot supported position, which is easier, but it's good to practice both. Certainly when you do the stretch from a position where you're not supporting the foot. It'll build a bit more confidence with being on the ball, etc. Give that a go. Get those abdominals and waistlines pulled in nicely, nice and tight. We're looking for the V shape. So until next time, I don't know what the next Swiss ball exercise is going to be, but we'll find one. Stay happy, stay healthy, and have some fun.